good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back on into the Dragon's Den. My name is Digital Dragon, and I'm your host for this afternoon. Welcome in. Welcome. Let's see who we got here. Shadell, welcome in. Nick, Bexy Beans, the wonderful Bexy Beans. Um, Zombie, hey, Zombie, how's it going? Good morning. Exactly. It's like a time warp. It's like we're back to the morning here. Back to the morning. I was like being a maker. Exactly. I pick it up. He gets on me about being just so ho hum and blah blah blah. So I at least try and make the introduction a little happier, more excited. Yeah. So how's everything going? Did you take a nap there, Zombie, or did you have to continue working on the honey-do list? Hey, Hybrid Robotics, welcome on in. Welcome on in. Yeah. So uh, parents came out and we hung out for a little bit and chit chatted. Uh, Mom took some of my Toys for Tots prints to take to give to some of the kids at her church. I guess they're getting ready to do graduation ceremony for the wee little ones. Took some excuse me, some Fix 'em Dude Motors trucks back with her. And then we went out and had lunch and ran back inside in the pouring rain because we had rain come down uh, past us a little bit, but we're not out of the woods yet. We're probably going to have a little bit more, so hopefully we don't have any network. Um, yeah, you have your Sidewinder X4 Pro working again. Awesome, Hybrid. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. So the plan is I'm going to work on building the last tool head because I do have all the stuff here for the last tool head for Black Box build. Then once we get the last tool head done, we can bring Black Box back up here onto the workbench and start doing some more of the, I call it the punch down list. It's an old military term, is all the little things that need to get done to finalize the build and get ready to do the commissioning process. It's those things that we kind of skipped over as we went, and we have to go back and finish off the last little things. Did you see that Gulf Coast shut down? No, I did not. What do you mean, like Gulf Coast Robotics? Or are you talking about the actual Gulf Coast is shut down due to storms and stuff? Gulf Coast Robotics. I did not hear that. Wow. When did that happen? Like very recently, or did we just miss it? Today. Oh wow. No, I had not seen that. I will have to I'll have to look into that and try and read up on that. That's kind of a sad day because they had some, I didn't buy stuff from them often, but they were a good source for some things, like especially things for like an Ender 3 upgrades and stuff like that. So, wow. Okay. That stinks. Seems like the owner just can't. Well, and I can understand that, especially with the way the economy has been lately. Just did Dan just buy all their inventory? I don't know. Interesting. So, and actually, before we get going on this build, I was trying to decide whether I was going to do this sooner or later. But let's flip the screen. And we had a box that came in. I know, shocker. It's got a KB3D sticker on it, even more of a shocker. But we did have one of the boxes I was talking about that had arrived while we were out today. So we actually got some more Digital Dragon stickers that got delivered today for the next shows. So I think we're stocked for the next 2 shows. Yeah. Ooh, post. Yes, you like it when we get mail stuff, huh? So we have a Bondtech box here. What kind of Bondtech box do we have? We've got an LGX extruder. This is the big boy. This isn't the LGX Lite, though I do have another one of those up there. This is an actual LGX extruder, and not just that. This is an LGX Pro. So this is a 30 millimeter deep motor instead of the standard 25 millimeter deep motor that would be normal on an LGX. Hey Pete, welcome on in. So I bought this and I haven't quite decided which yet. Once I get the rest of the parts in on Monday and I start doing some fitment, we're going to make the determination as to whether the LGX gets married up to the tube or the LGX gets married up to the Dakota hot end and the FXD goes over to the tube. We'll have to see. But yeah, this is a Chonky. This is an LGX Pro. It's SLS. No, this is it's SLS printed, but it does have a lot more metal to it. Like the whole bottom portion here is definitely anodized aluminum. There's a lot more metal on this. It's made for higher temp stuff. A Bowden tube would be interesting. I mean, I guess it could be. I've seen a tube, and I'm trying to remember. I think the Calamity tool head carriage that I got from Luke's Lab might actually be for a metal Sherpa, which I do have a FISEC metal Sherpa kit. So we might put that on it. I don't know. I just made sure I had some options. Ooh, I got a specialty screwdriver. I mean, pry bar. These are always good to have. So this is the vaunted KB3D screwdriver. It has a pin clip, so you can put it on your like your LDO apron. If you picked up a nice LDO apron, you've got a nice strong neodymium magnet on the end. So if you are, if you spill like a whole thing of M3 washers, you can just use this to try and pick them up off the floor. These are really good to take, and I always take them, stick them right underneath on my on my workbenches. So I always have one close by at hand. Lurking because you're repairing your bell dress and my mood's a bit meh. I'm just gonna like listen to your cool stuff. Okay, Bexy, take it easy. We got another wonderful KB3D sticker because we don't have enough of those visible on stream all the time. I think I'm just like collecting all of his stickers. I did happen to pick up a Meanwell UHP 48 volt power supply. This is a 350 watt 48 volt. So pushes 7.3 amps. This is going to be for one of them future projects with a tube or a Takata. And also what's going to be for a future project is what's in this box. So the last box, let me get rid of the cardboard there. The last box is going to have a nice big goodie here. You have a sticker on your camera. Yeah, I have one on my layout there. So if you know, you know, just by the sight of the black ducky. Finally got one of my black duckies. Been meaning to get me one for a while. Standard little Big Tree Tech sticker. Add that to the pile of them. Another Big Tree Tech sticker with the clipper one. And then at some point, I really need to see if I can't get one of these that's like Draken, since they've been doing all of them. So I might have to see if my boy Poity can make me one. Either that or I'll try and get my wife to make me one. But this is the Big Tree Tech Kraken board. And I cannot express to you how big and huge this thing is. Hey, Royal Nomi, how's it going? Yeah, this is the big boy. So these capacitors here, these are LKM A24s. Where's the rating on? Huh. 820 microfarad, 80 volt. Yes, that is 820 microfarad, 80 volt capable capacitors for the first 4 motors. So this would be made for your AB XY type setup. And then the other 4 are a little more standard 560, 80 volt rated. These are similar to what you're used to seeing on some of the other boards that are doing 48 volt to plus boards for running your 5160s. Yeah, let me put that sideways and just say, look at them caps. Them is some big boys. Okay, and these are not your standard, like these are standard JST connectors, but these are not. Okay, and that's just a hefty boy. I love the silk screen on here. So yeah, this is going to be used for a as yet undetermined build. I think I'm going to use my Leviathan to upgrade one of my other printers behind me. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to use this board in. I've got an idea of what I want to do. I just need to make sure that I can make that a reality before I say anything. But yes, this is going to be the nice one, and I got my vaunted back ducky finally. So for those of you that know, like the Leviathan board was created primarily for like the Voron series, so like the 2.4 or the Trident, for people that want to start running their A and B motors at 48 volts and so forth. The Kraken is actually designed more for like Phoenix and running very high voltage high voltage to motors and doing an IDEX on a very large size printer. So there's some some things in the works there for what we're going to have as a hopefully a chunky printer that can print things pretty fast. Because if you think a super volcano nozzle with two 100-watt super volcano heaters and say maybe like a 1.2 nozzle, you'd be able to push a little bit of plastic. Oh, the build quality on that board looks beautiful, Nick. The caps are massive. Like I said, you should be able to easily push 56 volt if you wanted, even 60 into those caps and motors. And remember, I want to say that, or not remember, but I believe the Phoenix is also running NEMA 23s, not NEMA 17s. So that even lets you, with a NEMA 23, it's a larger motor. You can pour more current into it. So that may be, might be something I start looking at. You don't know. But it'll be an interesting build if kind of what I'm thinking of and thinking about, if I can pull it off. Might be a longer build, but we'll see. Hey, Pseudo Bamboo, how are you doing? Where can I find all of the videos about Ender 3 standard? You know what, Pseudo Bamboo? Probably some old Chuck Hellebuck on his CHEP channel, CHEP. Chuck Hellebuck on YouTube. He's kind of like the Ender Whisperer, and he would have some of the old stuff because he's done a lot of stuff on the Enders and the CR10s and stuff. I I still have a very heavily modified Ender 3, which is not here in the Dragon Den. It's actually at Site B, which is Evil Diesel's house. And it's an OG Ender 3 with a Microsys all metal hot end, a Sherpa Mini direct drive extruder, dual Z's, linear rails on all axes. I swapped out the bed for a Mic 6 tool plate, Mic 6 bed with a 24 volt silicone heater. SKR Mini E3 V3 was in it at one point. I believe it was running I upgrade that. I believe it had a SKR 1.3 or 1.4 turbo in it to allow for the dual Z's. Or the dual independent Z's, so you can do like Z tilt across it. Yeah, just heavily modified. Like it's Creality in frame only is how I'll pretty much put it. The Zombie, because I'm probably going to have this finished, you need to tell Pez Liz that her cup has made it on a stream. Not sure, the main camera might be a little bit better for that. Nope, still going to get the light glare. But Pez Liz on stream. More ways than one. So this came in today as well with the other box. So, yep. What, do you guys have Z and Z merch yet? Kind of need some Z and Z merch. And I did find that I have one of your coin zombie, and I did get I say I did get. Mrs. Dragon got a zombie hedgehog coin. I think she got both or two styles of your coin. You got a Karen Chow coin, a Pez Liz coin that's different than the Pez Liz coin that I got. Trying to remember what else. I finally saw the loot bag. Um, oh, and then stickers galore. Oh my God, we've got 2 and 3 of each sticker that they grabbed. So definitely have some Pez Liz stickers, and we got that loot. So kind of that said and out of the way, let's jump over here. We'll bring up our guide here, and we're going to start building out our last tool set or tool head. So I've got 4 tool heads on there now. I've got 3 Revo tool heads and an E3D-V6 tool head on there. This is going to be another Revo tool head. So we'll go ahead and get these parts undone and ready to go. And normally I would say keep these baggies because you never know when they're going to come in handy. I think I have quite a ton of them. Know I'm going to also need my metal parts out. There's the heater core. So I am running the standard Revo Obsidians and the in the 0.6 nozzle size and the high flow heaters. So at any point in time, I can upgrade to the like the high flow Obsidians. However, if I go up to a high flow Obsidian, I have a feeling I might go up past the 0.6 nozzle just because I've heard of people getting clogs in them, and they're a bit different or a bit expensive to be clogging those and having to toss them out. So you got 5 different Cocoa Press stickers? Probably so. Probably so, knowing her. All right, so we got all kinds of little bits and gubbins and stuff here. So there we go. So main body preparation. We're going to locate part 03. Creating the correct orientation of filament path is a vertically printed hole. Run a 2mm reamer through the filament path as shown. So that would be this part here. And we're just going to ream through this hole, front to back, to make sure that our hole is a nice and clean 2mm. So our filament has a good clean path to travel through. And I just remembered I don't have a 2mm reamer. You can actually see if Chris has that kit or a 2mm in his kit or not. If so, then I'll buy his kit and I will then use that up here and move all my drill bits and reamers downstairs. I am going to have to chuck that up. Oh, hey, it's a Pez Liz. How are you doing, Pez Liz? Did a little birdie get in your ear or did your ears just start burning when I started talking about you? They were in the pictures you posted. Yeah, she got multiples, and I thought she was going to give some to her brother and stuff, but apparently I got them a lot. KB3D been out of stock on the Reamer set for a bit now. Yeah, probably. Hey, Philinux, welcome on in. Welcome on in. A little Z-Hog beckoned you. Imagine that. Yeah, I'll try and poke him some. I got to be a little bit nice to him though. I can't rag on him too much because he did come to my rescue when I needed him. So, yeah, the colors on that came out nice. Yeah, it's a really nice mug. It's a little bit smaller than some of the others, but it all depends on who you go through for your merch as to which size options you have. Okay, so our hole is now 2 millimeters. So we're good there. So, and I can confirm that Miss Dragon, Evil Diesel, and I don't know if we're going to be calling her Little Diesel or what, but Evil Diesel's daughter's coming to the show with us to Murph. So we're going to have the whole crew there. I hear that this individual by the name of the Free Heathen is going to make an appearance and debut at Murph now that he has his passport. So that will be good. What else? Anything else? We're going to have several printers there. There will be some printers that will be looking for new homes. So come chat with me if you're interested in any printers. We will be rehoming some at the show. Uh-oh. So we're going to be putting in some M3 heat set inserts. Zombie, thank you for the 100 bits. Pezlis, thank you for the 101. You're cooler than Zombie. We all know that, Pez. And we're almost to the beginning of a hype train. It's like a toddler on a triple espresso. Oh my God, yes. Yes, he is. I can only imagine him. I can only imagine Maker doing this in your ear constantly now. Bexy trying to figure everything out. The Zombie comes in with 102, trying to one up Pez Liz. Mr. Wizix with 100 bits. Thank you. Thank you, guys. If it all works out, I go and still don't have a working printer by then. I may try to make a deal with you. Okay, sounds good, Philinux. That is always something that can happen. Oh, I bet he called you when it first arrived, Bexy Beans. I bet he called you. Don't mention the P word. P word Pez or is it starts with a P and ends with a T? Oh, so you just finished a 12-hour day and port of passing. There you go. And then it started for real when he called. I bet. Yeah, so like I said, I like to wear everybody else's merch. There's a link that just popped on everybody's screen with my own merch, which you will see me wear around the shows and stuff. But I do like, supporting other makers and, spreading the love of all the other makers that I like to watch and hang out with. So just calm down a minute here. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? All right, let's go ahead and get our soldering iron warming up. We're 25% through in a level 1 hype train, so we've got 3 minutes left on that. We're going to run for a little while tonight. Like I said, the weather's been bad outside, so hopefully we don't get knocked off with the weather now. But it also means that I will not be outside doing any yard work the rest of the evening. So we may stick around for a while, or at least until Mrs. Dragon tells me she misses me. Have you ever watched Clarkson's Farm? Imagine him as Jeremy and me as Charlie, the land manager. I have not seen Clarkson's Farm, but now I'm intrigued. So, Philinux, Bexy Beans is our wonderful Disney princess who lives in England, actually, somewhere in a major town there. I'll let her go any further than that, but yeah, she literally is a Disney princess. So she has been known to make appearances on the Free Heathen stream. And every once in a while, we cajole her into, I don't know, talking and singing like Belle. Oh, me? I am in North Carolina. North Carolina. So I was born and raised in Florida, moved all over the United States and the world with this wonderful opportunity known as the United States Air Force, of which I spent 6 years in Germany. And then, yeah, now I'm back here in North Carolina. I used to live in Colorado, so it's kind of nice to get back and see it every now and then, but it does not do great things for my health, hence why we're out here. But I think I kind of got lucky with all the US shows because my oldest son still lives in Colorado Springs, and my wife's family is in Denver. And then my younger son lives in Goshen, Indiana, believe it or not, which is where Midwest Rep Rap Festival is. So I get to go see him once a year and go geek out on 3D printers. And then my wife also has some family in the Bel Air, Maryland area. So we get to go out there and see some family while we're out in 3D Printopia, aka Earth, or formerly Earth, I should say. Yeah, so all I'm doing right now is putting in heat set inserts into the appropriate location. And in a minute, I will change the camera. There we go. Because I just realized that we didn't have the camera view on over here. So for the most part, we're putting in heat set inserts in flat faces. This is a flat face, but this one needs to get countersunk because there is a sloped face here. So when we put this in, we do create a bit of a brim around this sloped face here. So we will need to take our blade and, being very gentle so we don't cut into ourselves, we need to go ahead and shave off that little bit of plastic that gets melted up. Just need to make sure that it's seated down in there just a bit so it doesn't protrude out this front sloping face, because this is where our hinge tensioner mechanism is going to go in. So I need to make sure that that's out of the way. Let's see, we've got one more to do here, and I think one at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One down here. 3, 4, 5. This 6. This one's a little bit more difficult to do because the top has a bump spot on it. So to kind of get this seated close. And I'm using the side of my bench to make sure that it gets fully seated down in there. Then I can just move it up and down to kind of burnish the edge. Now we're going to put one here and one on the back, as shown in this screenshot. There you go, Bexy. Was that wow for me, Zombie? Do you not know that I was in the Air Force? Yeah, I was stationed in, basic training in Lackland Air Force Base down in San Antonio. Then tech school in Biloxi, Mississippi. Then Anchorage, Alaska. Sacramento, California. Dayton, Ohio. Tucson, Arizona. Germany. I have family at just about every 3D print location. Yep. It kind of works out really cool. Here's the last. And then out to Colorado for my last duty assignment. That's where I called it quits, or at least that's where medically my body would not meet the requirements of military medically discharged. And then, yeah, and believe it or not, me and Evil Diesel were stationed together in Germany in the early 2000s, and we now live like 10 minutes from each other, which is just kind of weird. Think about it. I think that's just some plastic. Watch your. No, that's still too high. While stationed in Germany, I did get the opportunity to go over to England. RAF Alconbury, Jack Molesworth, been out to the embassy in London once or twice. Got a chance to go all kinds of places. Lots of fun. All the embedded Bowden coupling. Be sure to note the direction in the image below. The bottom or inward facing portion of the insert has the chamfered feature. That is highly critical. If you put it in the wrong way, you will be melting it out. When you melt it out, you may wind up reprinting a part. Saying, be careful. So yeah, it is pretty interesting. Now I just need to find a individual that lives in or around or near Smurf so we can make that trip. a little bit easier. All right, what I'm going to do is get my little metal rods out, my ball out, my bearings, my other ball. Get that out, but I'm going to take these little magnets and put them back in here for the time being. And put that off to the side. So when we go to mount this piece right in here, we need to be careful. We may need to open this up with our reamer to make sure that it's easier to get in there. And that we don't bust the print up when we go to install it. And I'm just going to do this by hand. And all I'm doing is just cleaning up the edge and making sure it is a nice, clean, round hole that we're going to put that little metal clip down into. I don't know if you can tell looking at this hole. Since it printed flat this way, the top edge of this hole kind of sagged just a little bit. And so just using the reamer, make sure that that hole is completely circular. Makes it easier to get this fitting, press fit in there. So this fitting, depending on how you look at it, this edge right here is the chamfered edge. So that goes down, and this is our top edge, our bottom edge. So we're going to try and get this lined up. And it may press in pretty easy. If not, we do have a pair of Knipex pliers that we can bring to bear on it to make sure that it's fully seated. May need to do. Close, but no cigar. So my good friend KB3D Chris sent me a pair of Knipex flat jaw pliers so that I would have a nice set for this rather than having to make like rubber things to cover tooth jaws, which could mar these parts. So all we're going to do is just apply a little bit of pressure, make sure that that gets fully seated down as flush as possible on that part. Okay, so that part's done. We'll put in the little collet. We'll go in there now. And if you don't put the brass insert piece in right, your collet's not going to stay in. It's just going to keep falling out. So if your collet doesn't stay in, that's a pretty good indicator that you put your brass collar in wrong. And you're going to need to melt it out. Hey, Shenanigans, welcome in. Welcome in. Locate and install the MR85ZZ bearings. So this first bearing goes all the way down into the bottom slot of this piece. So there's a couple of things you might want to do. One, depending on your print tolerances, you may need to, once again, break out your 8mm reamer and ream that. And then two, you're probably going to use your smallest pair of Knipex pliers or a pair of flat pliers to a pair of needle nose pliers just to make sure you get it fully squeezed in there. Just be careful when you're doing these that you that you go fully over both sides of the races. If you don't, you could actually bend the races and damage your actual bearings. Gotta be careful not to damage your bearings. So how you doing tonight, Shenanigans? We streamed a little bit earlier, but we had to have a short stream because my parents had surprised me that they were coming over and they wanted to take me and my wife out for a lunch. So that's pressed down in there. So it's nice and flat down in there. So they took us out to lunch and came back, chilled out for a little bit, and then they headed back home. It was raining pretty hard here, but apparently as soon as they left town, they said that it was bone dry the whole way home. So. And Shenanigans, I know you know this person, right? Do you know this person too? What we're doing is we're just sitting down here and building another tool head. I did get the parts in for the final tool head for the black box build. So I figured now was a good opportunity to put this together and get it added to the printer before we get too much into this. Yep, Bezliz! Okay, so what do we got? We've got a large gear. We're gonna need this large gear. A little set screw, we won't need that, so you can toss that. Toss it or hold on to it. We'll hold on to it for just now. The big thing is whether or not the set screw somehow is missing from our dual drive gear. If it's there, then we can toss the other one. If this disappears somehow, then we can. Then we have the other one to use. But I'm just getting rid of all of the small baggies because I've got tons of them. So now that we've got our Bondtech stuff out, we need to remove this gear. And so the easiest way to do that, you can heat things up, you can cool things down, but it is a press fit. So the easiest thing that I've found is to use a gear press. This is a Great Plains model. It's used to press on bearings and like propellers and things like that. So all I'm going to do is open it up some. I'm going to take the bearing or the gear like this, slide it in at a little bit of an angle, and line it up and drop it down in there. See? Come on. The gist is it won't go in that way because it's too big. So you have to twist it and get it in there a little bit. There we go. Now we can bring down our clamp right on top of the rod and we'll just press the rod out of that gear. Like that. Go ahead and open this up all the way. And there you have it. You'll notice at this end, it's got a little bit of a wider and a tooth cut in it. That's where we're going to be putting the new gear. So we need a slightly different designed gear housing here. And that is provided in your kit. And you're going to have to be careful. And it's hard to see and hard to tell. But you'll notice that these teeth have a hard stop, so a hard edge at this side, but it's a rounded over edge. So you can't just take and clamp something here or you will bust up the teeth, flatten the teeth on this top edge, and then you'll have engagement issues with the extruder when the tool's picked up. Okay? So what I found, two different ways. So like I said, you can heat up and cool down certain parts. You can cut through the plastic gear, but being careful not to go all the way where you will damage the rod itself. But then when it comes time to press things on, we're going to start with the flat of our shaft down and where the gear is going to stick in at the top. And the lower or the smaller part of our gear is going to go down first. So we just kind of get that lined up there. Okay. Then we'll take our other gear and a pair of our Knipex pliers. Then we'll grab our big Knipex pliers with the larger opening. We're just going to try and figure out how long we're going to need it. Okay. And what I do, because once again, I do not want to touch around this edge, I'm going to flip this over so that the smaller circle top is lined up right at the top like that. Now I can come in with my Knipex. It's going to clamp on top and bottom, and I can start squeezing them together and pushing this SLS printed gear down on the rod further. I'll just make sure and get the other plastic gear lined up. We will shorten our length some. Same type of thing, get it lined up. And we're just going to keep applying some pressure and pushing now both gears onto the rod. And what that's doing is it's making sure that one, this stays perpendicular to the shaft and that I'm able to get it pressed down in there far enough. And I can tell I'm going to need to go just a tad bit more. So we'll take it one more notch. We'll just keep pressing it down. And I know from experience that I kind of want my SLS printed jaw with the rounded top gear be right down around the bottom of where the extra size teeth on the rod is. Then all I have to do is just kind of do a twist and pull to get the other gear back off. And I won't need this. I can throw this away right now if I needed to, or I can keep it in case I break one of these. I can press it off and press a new one on. I haven't worn one of these down yet in any of the extruders that use a Bondtech gear, but you never know. So once again, you'll see where the top, you've got a little bit of that extra toothed area sticking up at the top. In the bottom, it's fully down into that tooth area. Yeah, and folks, I do want to keep making that plug. So 3D printed Toys for Tots with IC3D is out there. It is live. Go to that link and register to be a elf for this year's IC3D Toys for Tots drive. please go out there if you have the time, the energy, and the ability to print some prints, even if it's, 10, 20, 30, it all adds up. And you have between now and I believe it's like early to mid-November to get things printed and then shipped off to your local collection point so that they can be shipped back into the main hub at IC3D for distribution of Toys for Tots. We've got several new designers. JD3D and Fix 'em Dude Motor Vehicles are there. We've got some MacGyver things back this year. Do not print anything that is not on this year's list. So in previous years, they've allowed us to do like older models as well, but it's not approved for this year. So please go find out what is approved on the list. And then, if you have the means, go and print a few here or there, and you'd be surprised how many you can get printed just doing them here or there. I'm going to put my gear puller, pusher, press thing back in there. Got that pressed on there. It talks about a jig. I did not get a printed jig. I have still not found the printed jig. I don't know if that got added to the GitHub point, but using the old gear like I just did works perfectly sufficient to getting this done. Main thing is, once again, the profile on that gear has that little bit of a lip, and you want to make sure that you don't crush that top lip. Just did a 9-hour test print on the K1 Max. Nice. And what was wrong with the K1 Max again? Was it a clogged extruder? Now we're going to add on the drive gear. So we're going to take the drive gear from our package. It should have the set screw in it. If not, this is where I said, there should be another set screw that we can use. This one does have its set screw in it. With the right size driver. And this is a set screw. And what do we do with set screws? We Loctite all of our set screws, because if you don't, or at least all of our set screws going into a metal part need to get Loctite. We will do some set screws that will go into plastic. Do not put Loctite on those, or you can cause your plastic parts to fail. What we're going to do is line this set screw up on the flat. I'm just going to go ahead and gently tighten it down now, pressing it all the way up against the other gear, setting that set screw. We'll set that officially here in a little bit. Burning through extruders. Now, are you doing any abrasives? Is it like their extruders don't hold up well to abrasives? Or I'm just curious. Now we're going to place the entire assembly into the tool housing, being sure that the shaft properly engages the bearing that we installed previously. So this whole thing is going to go down into the tool shaft area, and the lower end of the shaft needs to set down into that bearing. So let's work this down in there. And we're fully down in the bearing. So kind of what we're looking like. We're not lined up with our filament path, but we're going to check that here by putting some filament through that path, and then we will adjust the gear so that the filament is in line with our drive gear. Thought that was filament. That was not filament. Filament. There we go. Thought I had some around here. So we're just going to take filament. We're going to run it through our filament path. And so let's see if you guys can see where our filament goes through and then where our teeth are. Our drive gear is not properly lined up. So we're going to loosen our set screw, get our filament path lined up in the drive gear. Yes. And then we'll tighten it back down. Give it some ugga-duggas. Be careful because that is a 1.5, very tiny set screw. So there we are. And we may have to push this down a little bit more. We'll see. Play that by ear once we start adding the next piece on here. But now our filament path and our gear are lined up properly. So hey, Pete, welcome on in. How's it going? Yeah, I'm interested to hear about that because I know, was it Zombie? Were you working on? No, you weren't. It wasn't you. It was MakerMind Nexus that was working on his K1 on stream the other day. And I was trying to figure out that same question. Was it the extruder? Was he just upgrading, or was he replacing things? Because it looked like he was swapping out the extruder. If the calibration cube is slightly pushed out from the base on the first two layers, are you too squished on your plate? Is it elephant's foot? That would be my first thing. Is could it be that your Z offset is too short and you've got too much squish so that it's getting elephant's foot? First time a gear exploded, second time the hot end went kapooey. This time it just stopped. Oh wow. Now, do you have an early K1, or is this a later model K1? Yeah. There's two things you can do, Hybrid Robotics. Number one is I would make sure that your first layer offset is really dialed in. That's number one. If you're still experiencing that, then you can go in and use the the elephant foot compensation if you're using Prusa Slicer. And I think Orca has that as well. Well, I've never really played with it. Yeah, it's one of the first. Okay, hey Ozzy, how's it going? Yeah, that's the thing with, that's been the big issue, and even Sam Prentice mentioned that, is the quality control for reality is just kind of hit or miss. But he did say that the new facility and production line seems to have a lot better quality control. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that newer products coming out and newer newer batches of their products that are being made out of that facility, if they are better or not. Interesting. So we need to throw in a couple of more heat sets. So let me put my, get these out of the way and put them to the side. We don't need this, so we'll toss that. We'll grab our heat set device again. This is our OG Stealth Press. There has been a new version of the Stealth Press. Was it the Stealth Press Zero? Recently announced. So if you haven't built one yet, might be a good time to go build one. And this is the part we're going to be doing. And we're going to need to put in one in the back and then one up here on this corner here. So 2 more heat sets. These are the same 3 mil variety that we've been using in the past. And be careful when you're inserting these. They stay hot for a while, and I invariably put my finger on this as I'm trying to hold it down for the other ones. So just be careful. Don't burn yourself like I normally do. Okay, and those 2 are in nice and flat. I believe that is going to be the last 2 that we have to do. We'll put our Stealth Press back away. There's a 2 millimeter pin that we need to install. And I know from doing the other 4 that this is a tight fit. So I'm going to grab my 2 millimeter drill or 2 millimeter bit. Go ahead and pull this out now. And the hole that we're going to put it in is right there, the one right above our heat set. Now I'm not going to try and do the whole way, and I'm just going to do it by hand, but I just want to open up the very beginning of that hole. This is just going to be basically a locating pin, so don't worry too much about it. And yeah, these pens are still in my other box. Look at these cute little things. Believe it or not, this has a little shaker, and I've been so scared of trying to take this stopper off because it's on there really tight, and trying to take this stopper off, I'm afraid I'm going to throw these all over the place. But if you kind of use it like a shaker, one or more of the pins will come out. So just use it like a shaker. You should be good. We're going to get this started in that hole there. And if we need to, we can use our Knipex to just push it down in there a little bit to get it fully seated. Because once again, it's just a locating pin. Right, we got it fully seated here. Now we're going to put this bottom part in here with an M3x16 socket head cap screw. Sorry about the cough, folks. All right, cool, Philinux. Definitely get some dinner. That's always a good thing to do. So this is going to line up there's that hole for the locating pin and then the 3mm hole for the M3x16. We're going to basically get this lined up and flipped onto that locator pin as well. Get our M3x16 screw going through here, which do the same type of thing and just open up the very end of this with the 2mm. And then I'm just going to run the 3mm bit through here just to clear it out again. Hopefully make my screw going easier. Yep, there we go. Get that lined up. And lined up. So now we're just making that end. We'll tighten this down. Turning those two parts into one. Like I said, this piece, we might need to push this down a little bit more onto the gear just so it's clearing this housing face. But we'll check on that here in one of the next operations. Here's where we're going to need to install our needle bearings. And we're going to need a little bit of our lube. Grab that. So this is Mobilux EP2. And we've got our needle bearing and our idler bearing stack here. This is the same thing as a drive gear without a set screw in it. I'm going to just pull that shaft out. Make sure you got your finger there so your needle bearings don't come out. Put a little bit of your EP2 grease down in there. And then we're going to take our shaft, push it in there, and with our finger down here holding it in, creating a seal, as we push this down in there, it's going to start pushing that grease into the needle bearings. And if it doesn't, so my finger's gone all the way through, or the shaft's all the way down to my finger, and I haven't seen any of that grease pop out, pull your shaft out, Put a little bit more of the EP2 in there. Put the shaft back in. When it's all said and done, when you start to put that shaft down in there, you should see that top needle bearing start to rise. That means that that grease is getting pressed in and it's starting to rise that up. So just push that back down, one fingernail, push the shaft down. That's just going to push all that grease through those needle bearings and into those needle bearings. Okay. So now we've got all the grease there. We can wipe off any of the excess. Once again, we're going to pull that shaft back out, making sure that we keep those needle bearings in there. We're going to need our idler arm. Hey, Rob Coat, how's it going? Ozzy off to cook breakfast. So we got somebody cooking dinner and somebody cooking breakfast. Awesome. Pancakes as the grandkids are here. Awesome, Ozzy. I haven't had pancakes in forever. Rob Coat, looking to buy my first printer. I know I've heard a bunch of people say Bamboo. Them being closed source makes me hesitant to pull the trigger. Do you have any recommendations for an open source printer for my first? So open source, there, everybody has some level of controversy around them, right? So Creality had a lot of controversy about open source stuff. Okay. So you've had some controversy with Creality and open sourcing. They tend to, yes, they will open source stuff, but they don't do it initially normally. And even their Klipper stuff is jank and people are rooting those. So that would be any of their newer Klippered stuff. We used to, a lot of us used to say, hey, the SV06 is great. It's a Prusa i3 type clone. It's a lot less expensive than a Prusa. But then there was some controversy over whether they were going to open source or as well, because once again, it's not plain vanilla Klipper, right? So there were some issues there. Yeah, gotta love the global nature of Twitch, folks from everywhere. Bamboo has replacement parts for a lot of its components. That's very true. You can go and get the Bamboo parts, and if you're stateside, they're going to ship from stateside. Creality, everybody and their brothers got replacement parts for and upgrade non-stock OEM version parts for replacement. On this channel, you see, I am building, I build a lot of printers. Well, guess what? There's a Bamboo X1C right there. I've got a Prusa Mark IV. The new Infomec TX printer. Several people have seen, I've seen those. Vader Sawson, 3D Print SOS over on YouTube. Did an unboxing of the, was it Infomec? Yeah, Infomec. That seems to be a good bargain, and it seemed like the Klipper interface was fully available. So you just have to be careful. Just also know that when you do things like Bamboo, right? They're closed source. Well, they're closed source for a reason, right? They're opening up access to some of the source code, yes, but they have a closed ecosystem for a reason, and that reason is supportability, right? You go through and you start grabbing all the Panda stuff and throwing it on your Bamboo Labs. Guess what? If you have an issue and you go back to Bamboo, they're going to say, we can't help you have all that Panda stuff. If you return it to stock and then you still have that issue, then they may work to help you fix that issue, right? But and I'm not even going to say that company. I did that a lot, even as a government contractor. We delivered stuff to our government partners or our government customers. They did things to it and then said, "Hey, something's broke." We flew an engineer out there. He took a look at it, and the first thing he said was, "This isn't stock. Return it to baseline." And he forced the site people to return it to baseline. Now, is the problem still there? Because we can't troubleshoot anything that you have done to our printer or our system, right? So that's the thing is Creality. If you've like, I never intend to ever go to Creality and say my Ender 3 has issues. One, it's an OG Ender 3. They're probably not going to care. And two, it's so heavily modified. They would say return it to stock and then we can talk to you. You know, so that's the thing. It should be open enough that you can work on it, but at the same time, you buy things like this to just print and do production work on. You do things like the K3. You do things like a 0G Mercury 1 build. You do things like a Voron build to have the ability to tweak and test and really dial things in. So, Bamboo, Dell, Voron. I just went to Micron and picked all the components and built my hot rod computer, right? You can go and get a game, like an Alienware gaming PC, which is, I believe, also a subsidiary of Dell now, or an Asus ROG, or what's the pre-built semi-custom ones, CyberPower, or what have you, and get support for their given configuration. Once you go out on your own or start adding and swapping things, they may help you. They don't have to. You've changed it. And if you give them an out where they can say, oh, well, it's a component that you put on there, so now it's all your fault, it's not covered under warranty. So it depends on what you're looking for in a printer. You're not, it's very hard to say an Ender bed slinger is a bad printer. It's a great printer to start with. The Infinimec at $299 sounds like a pretty great printer. I've never laid hands on one. I got a Flying Bear Reborn 2. Good printer, decent printer. It's a hell of a printer for sub $400 Core XY 300 by 300 by 325. It's kind of hard to beat. Global SV08, I haven't played with one. I haven't bought any Sobel stuff yet. Everybody I've seen that has gotten it, it's, Nero got his, and his top was not built correctly. He had to disassemble it and reassemble it correctly. Other people have gotten it. Some people have had issues. There's been some controversy about, well, they're not citing Sobel. Or I'm sorry, they're not citing Voron. It's a Voron clone. They're not citing Voron. Well, it's as much of a Voron as any 4XY printer. Just let that sink in. Voron does not have a lock on Core XY. Voron is not a company. They are a design team and philosophy. Right? So, buy the printer that makes sense for your desired printing. You want to go really, really fast? Then go look for something that can be a speed demon. Just know that fast also means more heat, more friction, more wear, more maintenance, and you're probably going to break something. Oh wait, what's going on here? We just got rated. Welcome on in, everybody. Let's see what happened. Corey's been posted. I don't know who Corey is. So Pete, if you got a stream handle or something for Corey, that would help. I don't know who Corey is. I'm posting a bit on Twitter about the Infomec. Yeah, thank you for following Scanian. Welcome on in. Looks like Captain Chaos. Hello, hello, hello. I would butcher that. My German would really. I'm gross a bit bitte about my German. Welcome on in. I'm assuming that's a raid from Chaos Drucker. Welcome on in, Captain Chaos and Sinberg. Welcome on in. Freya 1980. Thank you for the follow. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in. There are going to be some issues regardless of which printer you get. Bamboo seems to be way ahead of others, though. Yeah, and they had some growing pains with support when they first started. Thank you for the follow, Inton Paul. Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Chaos Drucker, welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. 3D Cafe. Thank you for the follow. Thank you guys for jumping on in over here and trusting me with your crew. Chaos Drucker, welcome on in. Let me give me 1 second here. Wild Sheep 007, welcome in. One stream I never understand. Yeah, Chaos Drucker, I hope you understand English. Thank you for rating in. I love coming over and watching your show, but my German's not as good. I did spend 6 years in Germany as an Air Force member, United States Air Force member, but I did come back in 2009, so it's been a minute. And without using a language, it kind of atrophies very, very quickly. So thank you for the raid and trusting me with your viewers. I hope some of your viewers can understand English so that they can get something out of my stream. Sorry about that. I'm still dealing with a cold from Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival, and we are doing some work here. Well, let me start off by just saying, let me do some camera swaps real fast, maybe. There we go. All right, so welcome on in, everybody from Chaos Drucker stream that just raided in. And thank you, 3D Cafe, for acknowledging my service. My name is Digital Dragon, aka Luke. I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. What that means is we do everything from some printer unboxings and modifications to full printer builds like the Vorons over here or the K3. I take part in some prototype builds such as the full frame build enclosed Zero-G Mercury 1 that's still under closed beta. I took part in the Tradrack beta, the Fadis Next G Hot End beta, and a few others. So welcome on in, everybody. Today what we've been working on is some more, we're kind of into the 90% done, 90% to go phase on our black box build. So black box is a 5-head tool changer. It uses water cooling to keep your idle tools at temperature but not overheating, as well as cooling the active head or the active tool head on your X gantry. So we're building our last tool head, which I finally got the parts in for. And then we just have to bring the printer up here, get that thrown onto the dock, and start basically doing the burn down list of little things to get it done. You're serving the German Air Force. That's the, I was going to say the Bundeswehr, but that's, Bundeswehr is the police, right? I'm sorry. I won't butcher it. I apologize. But yes, I was stationed at Mines Castell with the U.S. Air Force. Luftwaffe. There we go. Luftwaffe. Yes. Yeah, and the Bundeswehr is the police force, correct? 'Cause they took over some of our older bases when we closed them down as well. But I was stationed basically near Wiesbaden over at Mines Castell. So spent plenty of time out there. Really enjoyed Germany. Want to go back in a heartbeat. Just the culture and the landmarks, the architecture, just wonderful, wonderful. Love to go back. So yeah, thank you. So that's what we've been kind of working on. You guys rated in right as I was trying to answer a question. Somebody was asking some questions about 3D printers and what would be the best buy in an open source printer. And you want truly open source, truly rep rap, you're going to be buying a kit and building. If that's not for you and you just need something that you can assemble with just, follow a few instructions on either taking some bits and parts out, removing a couple of screws or adding a couple of screws, then I would say anything in an Ender line, the K1, like I said, some people are getting really good K1s. Some people get some K1s with an issue. It's quality control. It's quality control. And when you look at it and you say that the Ender 3 product line is the largest by volume product line printer in the world by sales volume, right? You kind of can't go wrong. If you've got the money and a Prusa Mini fits the bill, by all means, get a Prusa Mini. They are rock solid printers. I've got one, and I don't print on it as often. Quite honestly, it's set up right now, and it's that time of year where my wife needs. They're called tomato clips, but they're just like little coils that you can use to attach or strap any type of tall or viney plant to your structure. So I have multiple sizes. We just slap a spool of PET G on there, and either one of us can walk by and say which size do I want, hit print a plate of them, and we got them for the garden. And if they last 1 or 2 seasons, great. If they just last that season, that's great too. But we do a lot of that with the Prusa Mini. It's nice. It stays downstairs, and everything up here I print various things on. Right now I'm doing maker chips over on the Bamboo. I need to build a filament respooler because I have some filaments that I need to print printer parts out on that I wanted to do on the Bamboo in multicolor, but the spools, the vendor spools don't fit. So I'm just going to transfer them to some Bamboo spools, get them going that way. But yeah, where we were at. So let me jump back over here to browser scene over here and down so you can see what I'm doing. And let's get back to continuing the build on our latest tool head. So this filament I did dry. It probably needed to dry a little bit more. This was not done in the poly dryer. This was done in the Sunlu dryer. So I did have to file and clean up some of this. These parts are printed in Trilene carbon fiber polycarbonate. So I do wind up chasing some of the holes just to make sure that they're properly sized. And then, either with a reamer or depending, like these are going to be M3 holes, and because it's going to be a dowel pen going through it, I am going to hit that with the reamer versus the drill. If it's like the 2 millimeter holes that we had to deal with before, I have to use a drill bit on that just because I don't have a 2 mil reamer. But I'm just going to chase these holes and make sure that they are nice, round, and will be a press fit for that dowel pen. And then the other hole down here is going to be for an M3 screw that's going to go all the way through the pivot point. I try and do these by hand. You can do it with the drill. You just have to be careful that you don't get hand-fisted and wind up breaking the part. With this being polycarbonate, carbon fiber reinforced, it holds up well. I don't want to take the chance of snapping apart. Don't have to. So Chaos Drucker, what were you guys working on your stream today? Or anybody that rated in, what were you guys doing over on Drucker Street? I guess it's tonight for you guys. Nice thing with a reamer is you're not going to change the direction of a hole. And it's going to guarantee that you're circular. Drill bit, you can, it winds up being a little bit of an oval. It's really not circular with the drill bit. And that's just because of the way that the drill, because it's a spiral cut, kind of digs its way through. Where with the reamer, it's a straight side edge blade. So it maintains that concentricity, get an actual round hole. Hey Bexy, how's it going? You had to check some stuff? Not a problem. Not a problem. We'll forgive you. So the other thing is when you go to do this, make sure you're holding the parts in the right spot. You've got this little indented side. That means that your gear goes on the longer flat side. So when you put your drive gear in, your larger engagement gear goes to the flat side. Your filament side gear goes to the side that has the indent in the part. We're just going to kind of lay this in there and hold it in place. Get it lined up, and we'll push our dowel pen down through there. And because we ream those holes out, that dowel pen goes right in without any issues, and everything spins freely. We're going to line the hinge with the main body and capture it with a 3x22 shaft as shown in the location. So we're going to line this up on the body and then drive another shaft through. Cleaned out these holes. We didn't clean out this 3 millimeter hole. So we're going to need to do that still. And I am going to grab the drill for this just because that's this pretty wide part, and I'm not going to be able to do that by hand without really tearing up my thumb. So we'll chalk this up in the drill and hit this real fast. Go ahead and pull this back out for the second. Damage anything? There we go. Once again, because this is a carbon filled filament, you need to be careful and make sure you get all the swarf cleaned out. You also probably wouldn't be a bad idea to actually have a mask on when you're drilling this stuff. But, you know, what the heck. Get that laid back down in there. We're going to take our tensioning arm, lay that in there and line that up. And then we're going to need one of our 22 millimeter shafts. So we've got two different lengths here. One will be a 20 and one will be a 22. Take the 22, longer one, get this lined up and push it through. We've reamed those holes, did push through nicely. Going from this side, it doesn't really matter which side you go through, just to make sure that it's pushed all the way through. And if you need to, give it a little bit of love with your Knipex just to make sure that it's fully seated. Make sure that when you get your jaws in here that you're not getting on this gear. Not getting on that SLS printed gear. You do not want to damage that, but you do want this flush on the end so that you've got a good lever action going. Okay. Next up, we're going to locate our other printed part, which is right here. We're going to press our next bearing into this spot. Let me just add a bit of cleanup. There's a little bit of fuzzy around that hole. Going slow and very light as I do this. I don't want to remove too much material and have a loose fitting bearing. I do want this bearing to fit in there well. Get our bearing lined up. And here's where our little wheel comes into effect again. We can line that wheel up over that bearing. Grab our Knipex. Bearing in area. Here over bearing. Squeeze. That will press our bearing into that piece. Want to check from the back and make sure it's fully seated all the way around down in there, which it is. So there's your other bearing. Why we keep that little gear that we replaced with the SLS printed one with the special gear rounded over edge on it. Well, there you go, Bexy Beams. I'm glad you got it fixed. This is Prylene polycarbonate carbon fiber. We need to place our M5 by 4 magnets into these two holes. they're they are like counterboard. So we want to take those and push them all the way down in there. And we should have, these are our 2x6s. They go back over here. But we should have our M5x4 magnets here we're going to use in our tube. And they need to be in the same orientation. So make sure they go in there and we get them pushed flush down into here. If you need to open these holes up a little bit, do so. If not, try not to open these holes up. I'm going to, once again, just use my deburring tool very, very lightly to kind of chamfer the outer edge of the printed part. So if I can start to get it inserted, then I can just use my Knipex to press it in. And if I can't, then I'm still going to use my Knipex to press it in. But I will do it this way. Get my Knipex jaws opened up. Get my magnet on there. Hopefully I have my jaws up. Oh, one more. Get that lined up in the hole. Then we'll give it the squeeze. That should get it set. I'm going to make sure I get the next one set in the same direction. By sticking it on there, now I know which direction is which. Keep it in that same orientation when I get it on my Knipex again. Line that up. Start to give it a little squeeze so that it lines up. Now we have one more magnet so we can verify that it will attract to both of these before we stick these down any further. Now's our one chance to get these pulled back. Okay? So now we'll just drop the gap on our Knipex, push these down in there. Right, now they're flush. They could probably go a little bit more. So we'll just go back out. We'll take our other magnet, set it on there, give it the little extra push. Too far. Just trying to make sure that this is pushed down in there. Now that I know they're down in there, I can go ahead and push them fully down. You just want to make sure that they're fully seated, because what's going to happen is the dock has two pins, and this is going to slide into those dowel pins. These magnets are going to pull it up against the dock, help it hold on the dock away from the X-Gantry. Yeah, I hear Snow Labs PCCF is really good. I just haven't bought any. This was Prylene PCCF. I gave it a shot. I believe Chris has both Snow Labs straight PC and PCCF. I just haven't bought any from them yet to give it a shot. Okay, so now we're going to take this part that we pressed the bearing in. We're going to line it up on the shaft and push it on to the shaft. Just like that. Now what you want to do before you go any further and put any pressure on that, kind of hold some pressure there and move that gear. If you feel it snagging on this printed part or any of the printed part, now is the time to do something about it. You feel it snagging at all as you're rotating that, because now that shaft is suspended in the two bearings. If you feel it dragging at all, now is the time to change that. And I'm feeling a little bit of drag. So what we can do, pull that back out. We're going to pull this out. Take our old gear. This is the original gear. We're going to just set it on top there. Open up our Knipex jaws. Because you do not want to clamp down on this SLS printed bearing. It's got a rounded over profile on the top gears. So we're using the original gear as a spacer. I've gone 1, 2. And all we want to do is ever so slightly push that a little bit further down. Don't have to do it much. There, I just pushed it just a tad bit further down. Now I can take this old plastic gear back off. Set this back down in there. Make sure it's not dragging at the back side. Not. Put this piece back on. Press in and move it and make sure that we're not dragging on the inside either. And we're not. So that's good. That's where we want it. So we're just trying to make sure that we're not dragging on this face or primarily down at the on this lower edge piece here, because there is a little bump out. Just trying to make sure we're not dragging on the front or the back, but that our linear shaft there is riding nice and smooth. Our filament path is all lined up. Not going to have any problems. Next up, we're going to locate our CNC tool plate and our 2 steel balls. Oh, we got an ad break in progress. All right, hybrid, get some rest. Feel better, my friend? Sorry, I didn't notice that before. So these are nicely CNC'd pieces, and they are laser etching these with the KB3D logo, the Black Box logo, and Mandala Rosework side there. These are looking very nice, very well machined. Everything's nice and smoothed and chamfered. So what we're looking to do is on the back side here, this would be kind of the front side that has the triangular cutout. On this back side, you'll notice that there's a countersink, a little bit of a rim on it. This is the side we want to put our 8mm balls down into. These are going to be used to center this on the X cam. Show you how that goes. So we're going to loosely secure the tool plate with the main body using 4 M3x6 flathead screws. Okay. I grab my with 4 M3 by 16 flathead screws. Or 4, or 1 extra. And one way to do this, the easier way for me, is just take this and lay it down this way first, then flip it over. Because if you don't, you're probably going to go like this to flip your thing over, and your balls are going to go everywhere. You don't want to have to chase your balls around the office. Put in our M3 by 16 screw and just work it through until it's through all the parts. Lined up. And currently a 1.5, 2. I'm just going to go ahead and loosely put this in there. I want to get all 4 started. There's a 2. I don't want to get them all tightened. I want them to be a little loose so that we can still move them around and get everything lined up. Make sure I can get all 4 of the screws started. And if you've missed any of my black box build videos and you want to check them out, they are video on demands on Twitch, and I do cross post them to YouTube. If you want even more black box goodness, Steve Builds is starting his build series on Sundays. So all of these are on loosely. The plate still moves around a little bit. Yeah, if your balls go all over the place, that's a bad thing. So we were putting in our 2 locating spherical objects into the metal plate, and then you have to join the metal plate through the printed plate to this piece to make this one plate piece. And you have your metal plate like this with your balls in it. You need to stick this on top of it, because if you go to take your metal plate and balls and flip it over, your balls are going to go everywhere. So we've got it loose. We're going to get everything lined up. It says right now, loosely secure the tool plate with the main body. They're pretty loose. I'll probably make them a little bit tighter than what they are right now. 2.5. Use right tool for the right hole. Once again, I'm not securing it completely, but I am getting them close. There'll be a tad bit of wiggle room. There we go. Now we're going to grab the wedge plate and secure it with 3 M3 by 6 flathead screws. So our wedge plate, this is how the tool will get locked onto the X gantry. So it's just a tiny plate that's got a the way it's made is as the tool head T-bar twists, it pulls it in tighter. So there's only one way it goes because of the chamfered pieces, and while it may go that way, this has to be horizontal. So follow the picture for your guide. Get it lined up. We're going to need M3 by 6 flathead. set screw. Three by 8, only 2 of them. Did say 3 by 6. So that, let's see if we still have some of those in the main kit. And there are. All righty. Use these. We'll get this, and this is locking down just to the metal plate. So the 3 holes that we're screwing into here are directly into this CNC metal plate. Once again, we're trying to get all 3 holes started so that they're all lined up before we crank anything down with Ugga-Duggas. How are you doing tonight, Mayhem? All right, shenanigans, go get ice cream. Yeah, ice cream sounds way better than watching my stream. So now we're going to locate the Bondtech thumb screw and temporarily remove the spring and the small retention clip. So our Bondtech thumb screw, we're going to remove that little plastic washer at the end. Move the spring. We're going to take our little printed, like just a couple layer piece here. Flat side that you printed goes down towards the thumb screw. Probably want to hit this with the 3mm reamer as well. Just to make sure. That'll make it go on a lot easier too, by the way. At least until you hit the shoulder bolt piece. And it's going to sit just like that. So put that on, put your spring back on. Then you're going to take that plastic retention washer and shove that back on. So that's now your thumb screw setup. That's these next couple of steps are showing us to do. They're going to loosely install the thumb screw through the latch and into the heat set into the main tool body. So this lined up and into that heat. Tension arm. Okay, so once again, this plate is currently still loose. Didn't tell me to tighten it back up yet, so we've left it loose. Locate the printed part 4 and use M3 by 0.5 tap to create threads at the shown location. Temporarily install the M3 by 6 set screw at this location for later assembly. So this is going to be a piece that goes on top, and the M3 by 6 set screw that we're going to put in here is going to actually be used to tighten down on the spring wire that's used to give form to our PTFE tube. Interestingly enough, I can barely see that is. Apparently I might have had my build plate too, or my the offset just too close to the work on that. So it's this spot right here that we're going to tap with our M3 by 0.5 tap. Grab that. Got our tap handle down here. Now, once again, we are tapping threads into our plastic. So we shouldn't need any cutting fluid, but we just need to be careful staying lined up and true. Tap all the way down into our printed part. Just like doing any tapping operation, if you start to feel resistance, back out, let some of those chips clear, and go back in. Or we're just down to the bottom of the hole, so tap out. Oh, thanks, the Mach 23. Welcome on in. Yeah, so this is a Pez shirt. I like to make people aware of various makers in the community, and I like to support various makers in the community, so I buy their merch. And if you can, I've got merch. Liz has merch. Everybody has merch. Everybody, of course, but a lot of people have merch. So if you can support your favorite maker, then by all means do. If you can't, no worries. You support us enough by following and just being here and chatting with us, keeping us company. I think since this is my 5th tool head, I should be done with this. Like I should have been done with this a while back, but kind of just, I don't know, slow rolling, taking my time. We're going to fit this part on using an M3x8 flathead screw and a M3x10 flatheads. Got an M3x8. And an M3x10. And the 8 is in red. That's from the face side. So we're going to take this piece, going to go around our clips to make sure that the lip of your blue clip is facing the metal side, because this is going to slide right over the top of it. Want to make sure that you have your nice fitment there. Get our M3x8 put up there. Lined up and screwed in. Get that lined up and screwed in. Oh. We'll need our M3x10 that's going to go in from the top. That in there. screw that down. And once again, it's kind of hard to see. I know where it's at, and I'm just going to have to maybe drill a little hole, but there's going to be a hole right here in the top where your spring wire goes down in. And then we're going to put our M3, I think it was an M3 by 6, didn't actually put that in. M3 by 6 set screw that we're going to screw in back here where we tapped. And we will not use any Loctite on this because we're screwing this into plastic. Now I am using polycarbonate, which should be resistant to the Loctite and stuff like that, but no sense in pushing our luck. And I'm just going to get that started to where it's into the printed part. So, like I said, I got to locate and drill out that little hole there. We'll do that off stream. Maybe later. One of those. That fitted. Now it's going to locate the CNC tool cooler block and orientate as shown. Important. Magnet polarity matters. Once installed, it is very difficult to remove this magnet without permanent damage to the tool cooler block. Okay? Tool cooler block. These are specially machined based on the type of hot end that you are going to use. In my case, I am going to be using a Revo style hot end. So we've got this little machined lip down here. On a V6 hot end, this is flat. There is no little lip there. It is flat, and it's got M6 threading for a heat. On the Kraken style or the Creality style, it would be a smooth bore, and you would have a spot here for 2 set screws. You would then set screw in to hold that bore, that heat break in place. So this is the downside. This is the upside. Your V6 or your Revo nozzle does screw all the way through here. So this is threaded all the way through. This is the place where we're going to put the magnet in. What we have to do is take our last magnet here. And we're going to take it over to our idle cooler bar. And we're going to let it adhere to the magnet that we put in the idle cooler. You're just going to have to take my word for it because it's over there. Then I'm going to grab a Sharpie off that we'll go and grab because I think one of it was oil. Hopefully it was closed bottle oil. There we go. Just going to take a Sharpie and mark the face. And what that'll tell me is when I go to install this magnet, I don't want to see Sharpie. Because if I see Sharpie, then I'm putting it in the wrong orientation. If I see the metal, of course, I just wiped all the Sharpie off on my fingers. Let me fix that. Okay. So, once again, I now have a Sharpied face and a non-Sharpied face. Our silver face, there's our Sharpied face. Sharpie face goes into, and I should see the silver face. So what I'm going to do is put that Sharpie side down. I'm going to figure out my jaw spacing. actually be good. And I want to put this with the Sharpie face visible. I'm going to line this up. We're going to press this in. Now, this is going to be a very tight fit. In the instructions here, you can take your heated or your cooling block here, stick it this face down where the magnet's going to go in, stick it on your build plate on one of your printers and heat it up. Okay? Let this heat up some to like 70°C. Let it sit there for 5-10 minutes. And then this pocket should be expanded enough that your magnet will be able to slide in a little bit cooler or easier. Now, I'm wearing glasses. The other thing I'm going to do is orientate this in such a way that I can then put my hand over it as I start to squeeze. Reason I'm doing this magnet can get too tight and then it will break and explode, send things everywhere. So safety first, not safety squints. These are, I've got my glasses on and I am covering this with my hand as I am now squeezing and pressing that magnet in. It is a soft shirt, Pez Liz. Go slowly. Listen to make sure if you're getting any cracks. See, we're down there about halfway. It needs to be fully flush. Take your time. Apply your pressure. And if your jaws get to where they're too close now, then that's as far as that's going to go. Still not fully flush. So we're just going to take this down a notch so that we can get a little bit more movement. Once again, as always, I'm going to put my hand over it as I squeeze. Gloves. Yeah, gloves might be useful. It could pop out of there fast enough that it might cut into your hands. If you're like me, though, you're a glutton for punishment like that. Okay, so now we are fully flush with the top there. You can double check that by running your finger over it, fingernail or what have you. If it's a little bit lower, which that feels like it sucked in a little bit lower, perfectly fine, but there's our magnet. And once again, just to double check and figure out if I'm now going to be like drilling that out, I'm just going to take it and put it on my bar and it snaps. So magnets are aligned between this hot block and the magnet that's on the idle bar that we installed several weeks ago. Okay. So now that's in there in the appropriate way. So this would be the Kraken block or the Kraken heat sink, think like the E3D or no, like an E3D Kraken or what, the Taichi or the Reality heat sinks that have a smooth bore, not a threaded outer bore on the heat sink. That's what this is depicting. Is so it would be pushed in and then you'd have the two set screws. This is a slightly different block, this Evo block. And you're going to take this and we're going to secure the tool cooler assembly loosely to the main body with some M3x18 button heads. M3x18 button heads. Sorry. once again, metal face up. It is facing down. So look at your orientation. You've got a smaller side and a larger side. Okay, so understand your orientations. That'll make sure that things get lined up appropriately. Take these, get them lined up, get them started. Don't know how loose they want us to have them. Just loosely. For a short length of Bowden tube, we do not need this. This is not applicable for the Revo equipped tools. Okay. So for the standard smooth bore cooler block with the Kraken Chimera heat break, you need 12.8 millimeter long length of PTFE. For the threaded cool cooler block with the E3D titanium heat break, you need 13.2. I needed this on one of my tool heads because I am running an E3D V6 style tool head on one of my tools. I did that specifically so I'd have the ability to test out like different nozzles or to use different nozzles. Right now it's got a I apologize, folks. A Slice Engineering whatchamacallit, a Slice Engineering Gamma 0.6 nozzle in it. And somewhere down the road, I may try out an Undertaker nozzle. I hear some people say that those are really, really good. I might put an E3D V6. I might put a CHC nozzle. You know, my only stipulation is all the nozzles in this will be a hardened nozzle that I can use with any filament that I want to throw into it. We're going to be running an EV6 Revo, so we don't need any PTFE. We're going to say insert the PTFE and then do your heat break, and that's going to give you your correct length. So what we're going to have to do is take our 0.6 Obsidian nozzle and our heater core. And the only issue I have with the blocks is for ease of machining, this is a straight vertical wall lip, which means the spring has nothing to really clamp onto and hold it in place. So you're going to have to get your spring around it and see how easy it comes off. Doesn't do that on a standard nozzle because there's a little bit of a lip on a standard nozzle. What we're going to have to do is put that in place and get it lined up. We're going to take our Revo nozzle, get it down through our heater core and into our cooler block and start screwing it in. We're going to screw this fully in. So that gives us our bottomed out length. Right? That's what we're trying to do. Now we can set the distance, or we can tighten these down. So our goal here is to completely fill the void in the filament path. So I can pull this nozzle out and now there may be some void there. So I want to push that up to where I can feel that it's touching the inside of the filament path. That's where I want to tighten these down now. So our goal here is to completely fill the void in the filament path with the length of bone tube without causing the tube to collapse or deform due to too much length of material. Just trying to keep a clean filament path. You'd say put some thermal paste on your heat break, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to do that. Push upward on the heat break, right? Push upward and then tighten your button heads cap screws down. You need to do this systematically on both sides. You don't want to tighten one side down and then the other, because then you'll have it at a bit of an angle. So you want to kind of tighten these down symmetrically as much as possible. Also want to make sure that we don't rotate straight across. Properly aligned, there's no give or take there. Throw the hint of a nugga dugga. That should be good. We will be making adjustments and micro adjustments on this as we get these things mounted, and we're testing the on off of each one of these. We'll test out. No worries there. Secure the heat break if you need to. We don't need to because we're using the Revo. Then, of course, you would put your heater and all that good stuff on there. Blah, blah, blah. So our heater wires, it's going to get turned this way, and our wires are going to come up and get tucked behind this little flag that we installed. So that's where they're going to come up. They will plug into the, I'll say like the umbilical connectors, and then they will be, have a cable sleeve around your PTFE tube, which is secured with your piano wire. That's stuff that we'll also need to do. So that when we bring all of these together in the sleeve, we'll keep this from continuing to flop around like this. There's your spool head. Once again, this back plate still isn't tightened all the way down yet. Why or when? Blah, 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 blah. Test with some filament. Make sure that you get your tension set right. Goes all the way through to the tool head. So take some of our filament here, put it down in there, pop the tensioner. We'll be able to feed our filament in and move it down through the tool head. Too much. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this back plate down. Like I said, we'll make adjustments later on. Trying to figure out how to put tension on this without like resting this against my belly where I could actually damage the brake, because that would be bad. That is working. So got that lined up. Good. Just there. There is yet another one of our tool heads. And make sure that you've got equidistant so your nozzle isn't tilted and your heat block isn't tilted. We're all good there and done with our Revo. So tool head is built. I can set this aside. Let me do some quick cleanup here. What time is it? 7:30. Do some quick cleanup. I need to swap a couple of things down there real fast. Let me get over to the garbage can and dump it out. So these are the silicone pieces that will go in kind of the lower dock piece. And that's going to have the parts that will be the nozzle wipe, and then the thinner ones will be the nozzle wipe. The thicker one will be where the nozzle will come over and go right up against it to prevent ooze. So I fixed that on the last tool head. These I think are going to be extras, so trying to do some things so when I grab this printer and move it up there that I don't accidentally knock things over. That would be a bad day. I stated before, you would see a grown man cry and cry badly. So you do not want to see Digital Dragon cry. Trust me. I ugly cry. There. This stuff is all extra. So what we can do real fast is add these to the existing mix. 3x4 set screws. Hey, thanks for the follow, Unhappy Dan. Unhappy Dan, why are you unhappy? I just thought I'd ask. Welcome on in. Thank you for the follow. And we are building a black box tool changer, which I will be bringing up here and setting up on the table here momentarily. What I'm doing is there's separate hardware kits for the tool heads that have the vast majority of the screws that are needed for a tool head. Because they're optional on the number of tool heads, it's, they require you to purchase the fastener kit when you get your tool head stuff. There's always extras. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just get the extras moved over to reduce the amount of different baggies. About to add the 4-in-1 splitter for your P1S. Cool. Nice. I've got a X1C carbon over the AMS. I don't think I'm going to need more than one at this point, as far as more than one AMS on a single printer at this point, but we shall see. Things change. So, what else? Hit flat button. And 3. These get added down there. By 6 flat head. Socket head. Those we do have. Those are in another. So you can use external spools, use a bunch of filament that are not supposed to go in. Gotcha. Yeah, I've got a couple of things or a couple of different spools from other manufacturers that I want to use, and their spools, I went to put them in the AMS, and the spools are just too big. So I need to respool them. So I'm going to have to build a respooler here shortly, so that I can respool some or the entire kilo to do those prints. Because some of them are going to be for my projects, and another one's a project that I'm doing for um, Tugboat 3D printing. So got to make sure that we're good to go and ready for that. Okay, so this is now back on there, close with this over here. Got room. Let me move my mouse. The thing I want to do is crunch my mouse. Yeah, so this is the black box hardware kit. This is, if you buy a black box kit from the configurator, you will get all of your core hardware for the base printer will be in this kit. Okay, it's a double tier kit. It's very nice. My suggestion: leave the small things that are in baggies in the baggies. I say that because normally I have this sitting off to the side, and because it's double tiered, I will have the top popped out. Majority of this is loose screws, but I keep it down here, so unless I knock this whole thing off, we're good. I'll leave this kind of on the top at a side, and here's where we can tell. This is the top screws, and this is the bottom screws. I knocked this over. Did knock this off once finally. Now, other than M3, M4, and M4, everything else was in baggies and was quickly sorted back out. So these I just had to pick up. Now this, I'm one of the first few people that have this. There's only like 2 or 3 people that have the kit so far. And what I found was, okay, this is an M4. I found that some of my Plot 8 or 4040 M4 T-nuts, because all of these are supposed to be M4 T-nuts, right? Okay, that's an M4. That's a good one. That's an M5. So I've got a bunch of these that are M5, and so now I got to kind of go through and say, okay, does that push through? No. This one push through? No. This one push through? Yep, that's going to be an M5. Right? So I think I had like 25 of these that were M5, and it's not a bad thing. KB3D does not stock 4040 slot M5 T-nuts. What happened is half the order that he got, so he got like 3,000 T-nuts. And him and Chris too had to go through after I realized that a bunch of mine were M5s. They went through and about half of the shipment that they had were M5s instead of M4s. So that was a supplier issue. You know, at this point, when you're getting these in, you're getting them in by weight. And he didn't check. He just said, okay, we need this many. They counted out that many, threw them in a box. So I think about like 25 or so of mine were actually M5 instead of M4. So that got mixed up when I dropped it over, and I just hadn't fixed it yet. So we're going to do that real fast. Quick trial and error thing. Whether it's an M5 or an M4. Both of those are M5s. And then what I'll do is I'll take the M5s and I'll just put them in a bag and set them aside this time rather than just throw them in a separate section of the carrier. And what's the other thing I found that was the worm drive gear on my actual tool lock is supposed to be a 4mm shaft, and I had a 3mm, so I had to. I went ahead and figured out a jig and increased the bore on mine using my drill press to a 4mm bored shaft, so that it'll go on the NEMA 8 motor. But that's about it. I mean, is there any kits I recommend for making connectors? Are you talking about like JST connectors, microfit? If you're redoing all the connectors, so most of your standard controllers you use in the 3D printing world use JST connectors. So my comment there will be, go get a standard JST kit that has M2 or M2, that a JST XH connector kit that has 2, 3, 4, and 5 pin. If you're having to make motor connectors, the 6-pin motor connectors at the motor edge, those are PH 2.0 pitch. You want your JST XH 2.5 pitch is the standard ones for most of our controllers. If you have to do the motor side of the connectors, those are PH 2.0 pitch connectors. So you just have to get the different sets. I buy mine off of Amazon. I've got a couple of different sets. Pick one. Microfit, I got the base kit from Chris at KB3D. And then I supplement because you can go and buy them by connector from KB3D. So then it's a matter of, oh, I need the vertical 2 or the horizontal 2, you know, or the 4 pins are the ones that we primarily use. You will get the 4 pin horizontal. Anything other than that, you probably don't use very much. At least not in our normal application. I just buy mine off Amazon. I don't know if I will ever need 40/40 5mm slots, or 5mm peanuts, but I've got some now. And if it's one of those things that if Chris stocked them and it was just the wrong size that was sent, I would send these back to him or take them back to him. But he doesn't stock those at all, so. Yeah, if you're making the motor connectors, and that's what I had to do for this kit. So anything that's at the X gantry tool head, and I'll show you that in a second, is a 2.5 meter, so it's 256 centimeters for the lengths of those cables. So you're either going and buying 3-meter long cables, which I did, or you're making your own, which I also did because I got bare wire in before I managed to get the 3-meter long cables in. So you're gonna hear me grunt a bit, but that's just because she's chonky, but she's pretty. Don't take that negatively. We're gonna work this out. Weight and balance is a mess on it. Okay. Give me half a second here. Put you on the main view real fast. Or try to. That way I can raise this camera up without making you guys sick. All righty. Good. So this is Black Box. Once again, it is a 5-head tool changer, Core XY. We've got our 5 tool heads that would mount over here. This is the one that we just built. We'll pop in over here. Legs lined up. Yeah, I might have to open some holes up a bit there. So this is my 1 V6 base tool head. Uses a titanium heat break, a nickel plated copper hot block that I'm going to put a high watt, like a 60 watt heater in. And it's got the Slice Engineering Gamma 0.6 nozzle. So it's a hardened nozzle. And once again, these slide onto these pegs here. Then we'll latch on. I'm going to pop you off and bring you around a little. Have a bird's eye view. So this is our X gantry. Once again, this wire comes all the way down, around to the side, down, and all of our electronics is underneath the bottom of the printer. But this is our X gantry. And those two ball bearings that we added, they will line up, one here and one in this triangle of, these are 3mm by, I believe it was 8mm pins that we epoxied onto that plate. And it provides a kinetic alignment system. Oh yeah, shenanigans. KB3D is selling the positron. So is West 3D, and so is Fabrico. I do have an affiliate code for KB3D, so it doesn't change the price to you, but it does support me and shows that people are getting steered to his store through me. So it's always good. Oh yeah, dude, I am telling you. So the black box kit, this is 4040 extrusion for the main frame, and the boxes of all the parts, excluding the 5 actual tool heads, was over 80 pounds of shipped material, right? So there is a pancake extruder motor, and this is an SLS printed gear as well, that will mesh with the other SLS printed gear on each of the tool heads. And then this little mechanism right here is a T-lock. So there is a NEMA 8 motor. Move this around and I will bring you guys around this way. So there's a cute little NEMA 8 motor here that drives a worm gear that will turn that T-lock and go vertical to pick up the tool head. So the tool heads have separate power and thermistor connections to each tool head, but we use a single pancake motor in here to drive the extruder. So there's a single extruder, a single T-lock motor. There is an option for a remote lock motor. So rather than running the worm gear here, it is a remote motor. Once again, we have water cooling up here, so I need to finish my water cooling lines. And I think I cut this one too long. So I may wind up being short some water tubing. I don't know just yet. But we are going to have the water cooling lines coming in here. Water cooling is all the way over here on the left side of the printer. So behind this panel is all of our wiring coming to some PCBs, some 4-wire PCBs with microfit connectors. And then all that wiring shoots over down a cable chain that I call a cable ladder because it's vertical. And then all of our electronics is under the base panel. Then this is our pump with the cooling fan for the radiator for our pumping system. This is all 12 volt. So we take the 24 volt from the main power supply, drop it to a dedicated 12 volt through a dedicated buck converter to run our pump. And we're going to have hard lines that come from the idle cooler block that cools the tool heads while they're docked. And one of these will come out, pop out down here, which will go into the radiator pump, from the radiator into the pump. This one is going to come out, go into this side loop, come around to the water block at the X gantry to cool the active tool. Return line will come through here, come over and join in here. So the coolest water or coolant goes to the actively printing head first, then it comes back and cools everything on the idle toolbar or the idle bar, and then it comes back around. So the the coolest coolant is always hitting the active hot end first, and then coming back and getting the ones that are being maintained temp on the idle block. And it's doing that through a water cooler hitting a aluminum plate that then soaks in the heat from the heat blocks all the way through the full length. So, and yeah, this is one of the things I was doing a black box build and a Trident 350 build at the same time. So, having to lift the Trident 350 up here on the table, work on it during the week, and then on Friday have to put the 350 down on the floor and pick this beast up and put it back up here as we continue to work on it. It's amazing I have not developed a third hernia in my life. I still need to pull the X end stop off and solder some wires to make the pigtail. The When I was undoing the X end stop, I pulled one of the wires out of its connector. I've already got the connector pulled out. I just need to re-terminate this one and put it back in there and then plug that in. Um, Need to cut the water hoses to the correct length. Finish those. And do like the other umpteen parts of the water hose. And then I know Chris was saying that he's just using straight, I think, distilled water in his and changing it out every few months. And quite honestly, I may go that route. I don't think I'm going to need like coolant. Um, all right, Pete, enjoy your event. Have fun. Thanks for coming and hanging out on a Saturday night. Just trying to do some of these little cleanup things. We will have lights here. I still need to run my PTFE tubes. Now, one thing I did, and I need to reprint them in a black. um, the pneumatic connectors for the PTFE tubes, um, they're held on with just these little spring clips. And these spring clips weren't really holding them on all that tight. So I looked and looked and looked, and I finally found some 1/8 inch NPT threaded nuts. And I printed those off, gave them a shot, and they fit. So what I need to do is I printed them in whatever color was in the printer at the time, which I think was a metallic blue. Doesn't match the theme at all, so I need to print them in black and then put those back on there with a black. And it's perfectly fine that those are PLA and not the polycarbonate carbon fiber. In fact, the housing over here for the panel do. So for those that have not been paying attention, these deck panels are just sitting on there. They're not screwed down. There does look like there's holes that you can put in some T-nuts and screw these down. But underneath this deck panel, we've got a Duet 3 6HC in a Duet 3HC expansion board. And we need the expansion board to drive the other heaters and thermistors for our additional tool heads. Hey, Maker Viking, how's it going? Now, one thing that is different in my printer, there were some revisions to the manuals. On one of the manuals, it showed tool 0 being all the way to the left, tool 4, because we go 0 to 4 or 1 to 5, right? Being all the way over here by the water block. This is actually tool 0. This is actually tool 4. So the reason I had weird links in my wiring is because this one should be connected all the way over here. This one should be connected here and vice versa. So I'm either going to spend some time off stream playing with wires, or I'm going to have to go through and make sure that I make the appropriate pin changes in the configs. I need to look at the configs and figure out which change will be less onerous. Because the last thing I want to do is say, oh, well, let me go and I'll just do the pen reassignment and then find out that there's a macro that doesn't use like a board pen file, and I drive a nozzle into a heated bed and I break a nozzle and gouge a PEI sheet. Right? That would be a sad day. Chris has done that twice. I think he's bent Revo nozzles. Yeah, that would just be a bad day. I would prefer not to experience that. So I need to, it looks like possibly just clean up because I think, so as you can see, this is kind of a wider piece. So this was the side that was on the bed. So I should just be able to try and deburr with the deburring tool these two edges, and it should open it up enough. If it doesn't, I might have to take a M5 reamer and ream those out. Hopefully though, just deburring the edge will get whatever. And no, those are just kind of tight. That's kind of tight. So, oh yeah, that's kind of back off of there. I'm going to have to ream these holes. Oh, hey, Maker Viking, how's it going? Because these are 5mm dowel pins. I'm going to ream these holes with a 5mm reamer. And then we will try and fit that again. And hopefully it'll fit a little bit nicer then. So quick question to everybody. Who all is online still listening to me ramble on a Saturday night that is going to Midwest Rep Rap Fest or 3D Printopia later in the year? You're headed to both shenanigans? Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I am heading to both as well. I'm going to have Mrs. Dragon with me, and we're going to have Evil Diesel with us, both of them. And at least at Murph, we're going to have Evil Diesel's daughter with us as well. What I'm doing is trying to check these out. And I was saying 5 millimeters, and it seemed like it was going to be a lot. And it looks like they might actually be 4 millimeters. Let me double check that. Grab a manual. So that doc. F. Yeah, I was saying that those are M4 by 30 shafts. Good thing I didn't hit it with that 5. It needs to be. So let's swap that out for the correct reamer. That could have been bad. That would have been a dope that would have made us have to reprint a bunch of parts and tear things apart and swap it out again. Miss Dragon also wants me to build her some different new and additional battle bots for this coming show. So we've got to be careful because we are going to be going into the back of those magnets. So we've got to be careful as we open these holes up. Don't damage the magnets. Process of opening these holes up. Those slightly opened up. Does this slide on? Other problem with all of the black that we makes it more difficult. Okay, so I'm like, now I know why it's catching. It's catching on the silicone tips down at the bottom. So that part I can fix real easily. Know that those silicone tips were set to work with this extruder height or the length of this nozzle. What I'm going to do is unscrew this, which doesn't have any of the silicone pads in. Swap these out. And reprint a part because we cracked that one. Broke it. So Oh, hey, Nomi. Look at that big old brick. Yeah, this is a chonky printer. But you can see that this broke, and it broke along the layer line right there from over tightening. So you got to be careful when you tighten these up that you don't over tighten them. Now the good thing is the vast majority of all the parts in here reusable, and I'll pull the heat sets out and just put them in the next piece when I print the piece. But I'm going to have to reprint this part, and we can install that a little bit later. I'll do that off stream. But that means that this tool head should, there we go, slide all the way on there now. Seems like we're catching on something, and I can't see what it is. Oh no, it's just, this is fully back, but right there, we're still attached. That's the magnet hold right there, fighting me. Dang. Something feels like it's catching. And of course, I can't see anything. We're going to get real safety unconscious and climb up on a stool. Try not to kill ourselves. Because I'm trying to see. What is causing it to catch? So it might be that my rods aren't fully parallel, or that I'm not pushing straight on and off. Yeah, like right there, it's catching something, or it feels like it. There is some type of catch there. What I can do, these M4 by 30 dowel pens, they have set screws that are holding them in place up here. So what I'm going to do is undo those set screws a little bit, relieve the tension on them, and see if that makes it easier to get this on and off. Still feels like there's something I mean, as I do it, it's getting easier to slide on and off. And that's kind of what we're going to be working on as we start to tune this, is getting the consistency of mounting and unmounting a tool. And Zombie, if he's on, can talk to you about that on his tap changer. And that's the bulk of it on a tool changer, is consistently picking up and docking a tool. And once you can get that done, it's like tuning the length of retracts and loads on a MMU. You get that done and it becomes a lot easier. That does feel like it's going on there easier now. What I'm going to do is just snug these set screws back up. And I'm not ugga-dugging them. I'm just going until I feel them flush. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that should allow these to not bind. So right there, I think what it is we're breaking the magnets at the top, but the magnet at the bottom is still on there. And I'm not sure if we're... We're gonna have to work on the adjustments. So there is a whole other section on adjusting these, and like take this on the plate, line it up, mount it. We'll lock, unlock to make sure that things are mounting flush. There's a lot more that we're going to have to do to make sure that this plate is fully level and flush and properly aligned. I think this might just be some more cruft in the shaft itself. Oh yeah, there's still some garbage down there. Might have to put the reamer back in there. Oh. I don't know why. And I'm wondering, I might need to actually... It could literally be these M4 by 30 dowel pins might have a like a thick spot on it that's just causing a little bit of extra drag. Or it could just be me not keeping it fully perpendicular to the shafts. But it's mounting. And then once again, these will come up and plug in for each one. That was good. I plugged, counter plugged. So anyhow, these will plug in, and Then we'll have our PTFE tube that comes up, goes down through the tool dock, and then out our PTFE fitting. That's going to be somewhat tight loop there. Sure. These will go like this. And then once again, once we get our PTFE tubes in here, we'll put some sleeving around all of these cables. I had to cut that one shorter when I made it. That'll be a next step. I'm probably not going to get that into that tonight. I'm kind of wearing down for the night personally. So I think I'm just going to leave this up here and we will come back and work on this next stream, which will be Tuesday. Now I'm going to start trying to, I need to get some filament respooled. I'm going to try and print out and build a respooler fairly quick. Sorry. And so I can start printing parts for the VZBot build and a couple of the other builds that I need to get out to Tugboat 3D print. And I'll figure out what my final length needs to be here for my radius. Cut this to length, go ahead and get it inserted. Same thing here. This one is going to come up around with the service loop and go down right here. We'll cut that to length, get that put in. And then this remaining tube is what we're going to use to do the other runs on the side over here. And then, like I said, if I need to, I'll either get some more tube from Chris, or this should be relatively standard tube that I can pick up, locally, and if I need some more. Oh, we got an ad break going. So who should we raid out to? Raid out to. Raided out to Bricks O'Brien earlier, which was somebody new that we had never raided into. Going to be plenty of Star Wars mods, Astro Canuck, rations. Then shop doing some spring fling combat robotics. Mayhem's just printing. Doug Shells doing some rapping and DJ stuff. Oh, that Pez Liz person. What do you think? Should we go raid Pez Liz? Yeah, DK's on. We haven't raided Pez Liz in a little while because normally I'm not on this late on a Saturday. So, all right, Shenanigans, thanks. Thanks for being here. We'll jump over to Pez. It looks like she's chatting with fixing printers, building a DD1 Star Wars. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get the raid going. She's on with Glendon. Thank you, everybody, for being here and hanging out with me this evening. Like I said, it's been a weird day with having family pop in and out, but I think we did a little bit of stuff. We got some progress made. I'll probably work on some wiring stuff off stream just yeah, we will see you guys on Tuesday for the next scheduled stream. Take care, all. Once again, 6 p.m. Tuesday night. Have a good one. We'll chat later. Have a good one, Shadow. Rating out.